All right. Call the meeting to order at 6:32. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Roll call, please.
Berman,
Here.
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 Pierce,
Present.
Basic,
Here.
Pearson,
Present.
Mayor Garten.
Present. All right, mayoral report. First item. Apologize for the temperature. It's a cool 75 degrees, set at 60. So another reason on the list why we need a new meeting hall eventually. But thank you for coming. And a couple updates. One is a Veterans Committee update, which we've been giving monthly. I met with the committee on the memorial that they're working on. The update is that, again, Manhart is doing the drawing to scale. We are going to have a rendering to present to the board for some review and working with the contractors to figure out pricing and where the funding sources are going to come from, whether it's donations or through the 501c3. So moving on, obviously, thank you everyone for coming tonight. As everybody well knows, we can use a couple days out of the news here in Antioch. We've had several events. The news crew probably never been to Antioch so many times in their life, but there obviously the incident that we're here for tonight is obviously the accident that we happened at the carnival. What's the date on that? July 16th. Huntley, thank God that his injuries were non-life threatening. I want to thank the community for coming together with the fundraisers, the businesses, the continued fundraisers for these events. And I really just want to take a moment tonight to thank all of the first responders that either were on duty that day or came in to come to that scene. I got the call myself from Chief Gutchow, and it was all hands on deck at that point. So for purposes of giving certificates and recognizing everybody, I'm going to come down there and call your name, hand the certificate, and then come up here for a quick, photo op. So I will go down over here to the podium. All right, so the first group that I would like to recognize is the First Fire District. There are a couple of individuals who are not here tonight, weren't able to attend, but I have a certificate, and I'd ask that somebody else from the fire district make sure they receive that. First individual who's not here is Noah Adams. So I want to thank Noah for his service and coming to the scene that day and everything that was done at the scene. Next is Marissa Chartier. Did I pronounce it correctly? All right, Marissa, thank you again for your service and being there that day. Next is Joseph Duchesne, First Fire District.
Mayor, you didn't give her her certificate.
Oh, I think you're. Next one is Ben Fuden. Ben, yep, Ben's here. Hannah Lang. Hannah. Johanna Lara. Oh, Johanna's not here. Okay. Ed Maluska. Darren Mahalik. Darren. Next is Madison Miller, who I don't believe is here. Madison. Andrew Vroman. Andrew. And then Kylie Wilson from the First Fire District. All right, then, of course, several police officers were at the scene. Some were on duty, some came in from off duty on that Sunday. So the first person I'd like to recognize is Officer Jake Bolton. Police Chief Jeff Gutchow. Amanda Mackow is not here, and I believe so. Jeff, I'll give you her certificate, but give her a round of applause. Jacob Ferris. Jacob. Melissa Resendez. Charlie Schultz is not here, but a round of applause, please. And then last but not least, our village communications director, Jim Moran, was en route to a family vacation and had to take care of all of this from the cornfields of Iowa and did a fabulous job. Was constantly in communication with myself and the chief and every news channel in the Chicagoland area that was onto this story. But again, I want to recognize Jim for his good work on that day. So before I go back to the podium, I'd like all you guys to get one group picture together. But I also just want to say the response from everybody in the community was unbelievable. And like I said, they haven't really had a break since with the incident yesterday. And again, just everything was so professionally done at both events, getting to the scene, making sure everything was secure, working with the family, staying in touch with the family, making sure the child was in good hands. So again, give them all a round of applause and then come up here and take one photo and you guys can get out of here and enjoy the rest of your evening. All right. Jim, take one
The
photo.
camera
as well. Yeah, so one front. And then you can go outside to the corner.
I don't know about that.
We go to-
Right, it was just.
Motion to adjourn.
Let me say cheese. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you again and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you. I just want to remind everybody too, the last concert of the year is going to be another fundraiser for the family where the local businesses are coming together to raise funds for the family with the village concert. Yeah. Yep. It is ridiculous. I'm gonna blow through the jam. Beautiful. And I just now that just a couple other, thank you. Couple other quick announcements. Sad news. I just want to acknowledge the passing of former village attorney Ken Clark, who was village attorney for nearly 20 years, or more than 20 years. So again, I want you to keep him in your thoughts and prayers, and his family. I believe his services are this Friday at the Abbey. And then I also would like to recognize one of my cohorts in Rotary and Lions Club for many years, and very involved in the community, Phil Dahl, his passing last week. So I just want to again send my condolences to him and his family. One housekeeping item. I just want to see if the board has any objection to changing a special liquor license that was approved for Casa Ruiz on 8/3 to the VFW for that concert, because there was a conflict by Casa Ruiz that day. So they've asked us to allow the VFW, who is also doing the other weeks for the, I believe, the margarita sales for the concert. Is there any objection to switching that over to the VFW? All right. All right. Thank you. Any citizens wishing to address the board? Anybody signed up, Mary?
No.
Okay. All right. Next, we have the consent agenda. There's 3 items on the consent agenda. Is there any request to remove any of those items from the consent agenda? All right. If not, I'd ask for a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion trustee Peterson, second trustee McNeil. Oh, that's Berman. Okay. Trustee Berman. Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
6 voting yes, motion carries. First item on the regular business is consideration and approval of payments of accounts payable as prepared by staff in the amount of $582,818.51. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Motion trustee Bluthart,
Second.
second trustee McNeil. Any discussion on these items? Any questions? All right, roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
6 voting yes, motion carries. Next item is consideration and approval of the annual appropriation ordinance number 23-07-21. I'm looking for a motion and a second waiving the second reading.
So moved.
Motion trustee Peterson,
Waiving the second reading.
Second.
second trustee Bluthart. Any discussion on this item? Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
6 voting yes, motion carries. Next item is consideration and approval of a resolution approving a facade grant request from Oliveri North located at 384 Lake Street. Resolution number 23-42. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Motion
Second.
trustee Bluthart, second trustee Peterson. Any discussion on this item?
Yes.
All right, trustee Mason.
So I just want to make this point clear. Everybody else that got this type of money, the grant, the money, whatever you want to call it, it was 10%. There's a lot of, and I've been thinking about this. There was a lot of when Jerry Johnson was a trustee up and he got 10% for doing 2.3 million, he got $200,000. There's a lot of public outcry on that one. You got Station 51, they did $1 million, they got $100,000. You got Love and Oven, they got 10% for what the money they put in. So now we're changing the amount of money that we're giving out. So everybody in the past kind of like, Jerry could have got $1 million, the other people. So we're changing up the programs. I get that that was a new business with grant and everything else. I get these. Station 51 wasn't. Get it. But we're changing the parameters of facade programs moving forward. So everybody's taking into consideration. Jim shakes his head no, but I think we are. And we got an agenda item coming up with the Historical Society. They're gonna want money. And I just hope this program doesn't run out of money. And we gotta dip into figuring out where new money is gonna come, because that's something dear to heart that I think we gotta look at. They're gonna want a lot of money for that program over there, which I don't know how much it is, but to
Sure.
fix up that program and to save Historical Society for Antioch. That's something that Antioch is memorializing everything. We're gonna give money away. I just want to put that in
Sure.
everybody's consideration.
And again, I know the Historical Society's coming up, from my knowledge, and Michael can clarify this if I'm wrong, or Jim Keim, the program's always been, we budgeted $150,000. It's a 50% matching program, and we would reimburse invoices up to 50%. I believe the largest one we've done is either the bike shop or,
The largest we've ever done is Station 51, $100,000, which is technically the maximum, unless the
Okay.
board approves otherwise.
Sure.
And again, it's a 50% reimbursement of whatever the proposed facade change is, facade modification.
Okay. Okay.
So as we discussed, one of the reasons why we wanted to break this into two payments, staff is very aware that we have a limited finite amount, $150,000 in the budget. So we wanted to break it down. And so we think we have at least one or two, potentially at least two other facade grants that very well may be coming through the process this fiscal year.
okay, all right. Any other discussion or questions?
Quick question. I'm not familiar with the 10% rule. Is that part of the original?
Well,
facade?
respectfully, I think trustee Masek has a good memory. I think that we have so many different facades grant programs, as you recall. We have basically what we call a flexible grant program. I think that's typically the 10% rule. So a perfect example of that is the Rivalry or Love and Oven. We generally use the 15% rule. So based on their investments, both those businesses invested well over $2 million into their businesses. And that those monies were used, as you recall, at least for the ale house and for Love and Oven, things like equipment, really wasn't for the facade per se. So again, for the record, the largest facade grant we've ever had is for Station 51, which is for $100,000. I think the bike shop was approximately 64,000. So we've had some larger grants, facade grants, but again, that's a separate program from our kind of our business incentive program.
Thank you.
Trustee Pierce?
I just want to draw attention to that on this, it's good for us. We're splitting it over 2 years because we're saving money. It's for other facade grants, but I'm very concerned that we're setting a precedent that more businesses are going to come and say, hey, give me more money if we can split it over years. So I know that when this was originally before us, it was for a lot more money. It's been pared down substantially, but at that point, it was the split was designed to help make it feasible. I think we just need to be careful about splitting money over years and promising money for this and that. And so I'm concerned about that. Just want to keep the board aware of that.
And let's, I know Michael, in the board, let's keep that $100,000 number in our conscience as we move forward with these. Obviously there may be some that, there may be special circumstances with certain historic buildings that we'll have to consider. So,
And
yep.
one last comment.
Mhm.
Everybody's not taking in the aspect that they've gotten money for that outdoor seating. And that was $60,000 for that patio, at least, that they were given. So this is secondary. This is secondary money that they were built out when the street was done. That whole outdoor seating area, this would be a secondary grant. Because that was all that patio was pushed out to give them outdoor seating. So this is a secondary program for Oliveri. Everybody forgot about the first grant that was given the outdoor seating. So this would be number 2.
Your Honor, I'd like to respond to that. There was never a grant written to Oliveri for the outdoor seating. Yes, we did push it back during COVID to assist with their outdoor requirement. But at the same time, we have a handicap ramp going right in front of their building. And my understanding at the time and currently is that money for that push out was used for COVID relief and for making up for the fact we were taking up the front of their building with the handicap ramp and that long sidewalk. So there was not a grant done to Oliveri other than this one here.
Steve Peterson, did you have your hand up? No? Okay. All right,
Exactly what
all right,
trustee
let's
Pierce said.
do a roll call.
Can I ask one more question? I'm sorry.
Sure. As long as you.
Kind of
yeah, as
Sorry.
long as we haven't voted, Yeah.
As far as with the historical society, I know we don't know exactly yet what the amount would be that they're going to ask for, but does anybody have any idea is how that's going to affect? Will that have any effect on that? I mean, it's hard to,
On the budget for this?
No.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think Michael could probably.
I
speak
don't,
to the
I don't
different grants.
anticipate, as we have an opportunity to hear from the Historical Society, I think there are enough steps that I'm highly confident that whatever proposed, improvements there are eventually with the cooperation of the school district will probably not happen in this fiscal year. In all likelihood, we're not planning that, it will be a 23/24 project.
Okay.
Anything else? All right, roll call.
Yes.
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 Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, 6 voting yes, motion carries. Next item is consideration and approval of a my goodness, resolution providing an inducement to a developer in the village in connection with the potential redevelopment of certain real property located in the village of Antioch, Illinois, resolution number 23-43. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Motion trustee Bluthart, second, trustee Berman. For those looking for some plain English, this is a request for a TIF proposal. So, any questions or discussions? Administrator Kime is here.
Yeah, I'd like a full and absolute complete explanation of what this Scrabble project is in front of us, because I read this thing and I almost passed out just from the strain of trying to decipher what was written here. I don't know who we're doing a TIF with, where we're doing a TIF, what the plan is on a TIF. We're just saying, we'll do a TIF.
So it's a good question. So as basic as I can make it, we have hired SB Friedman to study a TIF area on the north side of 173 at Brown. So that this board approved and that study has commenced. So that's the TIF that this will be pertaining to. So what this resolution does is allows the village to recoup costs that we may extend before that TIF is established. It wouldn't be established until a public hearing is held and an ordinance is passed and all of those steps need to happen. But if we spend money, such as with SB Friedman to do the study, this allows us to recoup those costs once TIF revenues are received. So I know it has a complicated name on the resolution, but that's what this is meant to do. Will there, some of the wording about an inducement to a developer, those conversations may come later, probably will. The TIF will be a tool used to help offset costs that will hopefully spur on development within that district. But by approving this agreement, if the board so chooses, you will not be promising any monies to any developers. You're simply allowing yourself to recoup costs that you have incurred prior to the official establishment of the TIF. And if the village attorney agrees with that, I hope, then that's what this is doing.
Is that recouping costs from the TIF itself
Yes,
once it's established?
correct.
Any other questions or discussions on this item? All right, roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
6 voting yes, motion carries. Next item is the administrator's report.
Thank you, Your Honor. So yeah, there's a lot happening. As you see, construction is proceeding, mobilization is proceeding, and I've been attending a lot of meetings via Zoom and in person on coordinating, and in particular with ComEd. It's the primary topic of conversation at almost all of these meetings is when can ComEd do what they need to do, basically get out of the way so more serious construction can commence. And I need to report to the board that to allow that to happen, and I've been working with ComEd, and Dennis has been working more with ComEd since January. But we have a final design that we think will work to underground all the utilities. But ComEd won't do a thing until they have a signed agreement and a check for $130,000, which you will see on the next at the next meeting. If this all falls into place, you'll ratify that, I hope. But to proceed and get ComEd moving, that agreement will have to be signed, and I'm going to have to deliver a check. We had an amount budgeted for undergrounding utilities. I think we will probably exceed that, but that's what I'm reporting at this point. There's a rather large expenditure there that board needs to know about.
Is everywhere in the village open Knolls 173?
No, that's just for this project across the street.
Oh, that's just over there.
That's just for the 6 poles that have overhead utilities.
I was going to say, village is cheap.
Oh, no. I mean, yeah, we'd pull the trigger on that. No, that was for the whole village. Clarifier work is progressing. I believe we're getting set to pour concrete, rebars going in. That work continues. Dennis and I had a chance to tour some public works facilities. We spent a day we started our day at 9 a.m. in Montgomery, and went to Wooddale, and then toured the Lake County Forest Preserve's maintenance facility, which is very impressive. But the tour is very helpful for me. I hope for Dennis as well, to see what's being built, how the municipalities are using these facilities. We got some good ideas, I think, along the way for where they're positioning things, and some do nots. We clearly heard from some of them, watch out for these fancy lighting systems that they can't even work the light switches because they're all programmed and computerized. And I think me and Dennis are agreed we like the simple solutions, toggle switches work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we spent a day doing that. It was very helpful for me to see some of these spaces and how they're being used as we progress in our design of public works. Of course, the mayor reported the Veterans Memorial, attended some of those meetings. I met with Liberty Mutual, our insurance carrier, who walked through the building and opened my eyes to a few things that probably need to happen around here to make the buildings more safe. And they're basically looking to reduce our risk. And so we'll get some kind of report. When that report's available, I'll make it available to the board, but we essentially are getting a report done. We had a 4th of July follow-up meeting. In general, consensus was, a few things could have been done better, but the day went pretty well, I think, all in all. But we always meet after those events and try to figure out how to do them better the next year. I just got done today from a meeting at the township where they're starting their first strategic plan. So the mayor and many members of our staff and I attended basically the stakeholder meeting where they did the SWOT analysis. And I think it's a good thing that the township is starting their strategic planning. So sounds like a good thing. More to come on that. This morning, or maybe it was early afternoon, I met with Mr. Polson and talked to him about his building and what has to happen next as far as trying to get the structural damage assessed, mitigated. And my primary concern or objective here is to get him back in business as fast as possible. He's been in business there over 40 years. He started in 1982, and I'm going to try to do everything I can to see that store opened again, albeit it'll be in a damaged state, but it needs to be in a safe state. So I've engaged with our structural engineer to cue them up about what may be happening here, and also recommended an engineer for either Polson or the owner or the trust or whoever's going to manage that hiring process to see that business get operational again. So truly a miracle. No one got hurt on that. There were 4 people in the building when that happened.
Well, on that response, so it's could have been worse. And when I was sitting down there, and I think we stayed on road, we should have probably at the crosswalk asked the state to put some barrier blockers up there, because all we took was a right turn, taking everybody out on the sidewalks. If you think of where that could have ended up, could have hit the rivalry again. and we put those barriers on a crosswalk. Because if you take someone actually took a left or right turn going on Park Avenue, we could take out whoever's standing there, kids or whatnot. We've had a bunch of stuff happen that's weird in this town. And the state might be open to pay, it's a state road, to pay for those barriers. And it'd be a good one at the end of Lake Street too. To ask the state, it's your road, pay for the barriers. It'd be a good letter writing campaign for safety to get those barriers. It doesn't make sense that you get crosswalks in an area without those barrier blocks. And you get heavy trucks, traffic, you got cars, and whatever this, this is a weird one, but you get people flying, still people go 30, 40 miles an hour. All it takes is someone take your eyes off and swerve to the right, swerve to the left. It's good. I think it's worth a try.
Okay.
We've been on the news a lot, and maybe someone might say, yeah, Annex been on the news a lot. They've had some tragedy. We'll pay for those barriers. I forget what you call them.
Bollards.
Yeah, bollards.
Bollards. I can look into making that request.
Anything else for the administrator?
The only other last item I have, Your Honor, is that I don't know if you saw the email. We did communicate that we have an accepted offer for the assistant village administrator. And Ashley Eccles is set to begin on August 28th. So I look forward to introducing her to you.
There's an email sent out.
There was an email sent out.
Steve Pierce?
I'm waiting for them to approve the email issue.
I didn't get that.
Well, yeah, we'll check on, make sure.
The only question I have for the administrator, I know you've been awful busy in the last 2 weeks. It's just been a whirlwind for you, but has there been any discussions or progress on the potential of making those 2 spots over there handicap for a van and then some additional spots on top?
There really hasn't been much additional discussion on that over the last 2 weeks. I understand your request.
And I understand it. But I'll just keep reminding you.
All right, anything else? All right, thank you. Village clerk, do you have anything to report? All right, department reports, communications, Jim Moran.
Good evening. Just to bring you up to speed in the last month. Well, I guess we'll start with kind of the newest stuff first. This Friday is our groundbreaking ceremony for the project across the street. I emailed earlier this week everybody the kind of the agenda. I expect it to be about a 20-minute or so, 25-minute ceremony. We'll have a few speakers, plenty of photo opportunities. We have a photographer that will be out there to take pictures of the event, and then the people participating in the event. If you guys have any questions or need anything, feel free to reach out. And I've been asked about like this being a big event. The big event with this development project will be the ribbon cutting, presumably next summer when we celebrate the
Not presumably,
finale of the project.
non-presumably.
Also, just a reminder, I know I talked about it last month, but August 25th, if you're a golfer or know somebody that is, the chamber has their golf outing coming up. It's the Northern Illinois Mayor's Cup. So there's several mayors that are participating, including our own. So August 25th, make sure that on your calendar. Obviously I was involved with the police PR last week with the Taste of Summer accident. One of the things I want to point out, I'm thrilled with the fact of how quickly we were able to get information out to the public. And the police chief, Commander Smith, and the mayor, their availability right away for media, and we were able to get messaging put together and out to the media very quickly, which ultimately suppresses things on the rumor mills and discussion of stuff that goes on. So I was very happy with that. Also, some other media, we were on TV at the beginning of the month. If you could think back that far. We had Angela from Little Bean has a promotion that she put together with several other downtown businesses. So we were able to get an interview with her on Fox 32 at the beginning of the month to promote the Where's Waldo event that they have going on. So it was a nice visibility in the market for our downtown. Finally, at the beginning of the month, we had our XRT Decades Weekend. So it was 3 nights of concerts that we put on with WXRT. The first show was probably a band that's one of the best local bands I've seen play here or anywhere really. Unfortunately, we had rain that night and the crowd was small, but they were troopers. They stayed through the rain. It was a really good concert. The other nights were decently attended and the publicity we got was significant. So that was a successful weekend all around. I talked to one woman that drove up from Oak Lawn to be here at the concert. I know Mary was telling me they got a call from somebody from Deerfield asking about the train schedule to come up here. So it was successful in bringing people into town. In moving forward, concerts will now be handled by our new business development manager. So this would be a good chance for Mark to come up and talk about some of the cool stuff that we have going on moving forward.
Good evening. So we have a couple new events that are going to be coming up through the fall into spring of next year. And so we wanted to kind of bring a couple of them to your attention now, in case there's any questions on them. One being the newest, the one's coming up next is going to be this laser light show, which will be at Osmond Park. This will be a village hosted event that we are bringing an outside company in to essentially take care of the whole event. This was a company that did it back in 2021 out at Lake County Fairgrounds, was wildly successful. They have a great reputation. I contacted their organizers there through the Lake County Fairgrounds. They have a great reputation. Their insurance was taken care of right away. Their ticketing was very well responded to in response. They are going to be coming on September 8th and 9th. This will be at Osmond Park. Essentially, it's going to turn the upper tier of Osmond Park into a large parking lot. It'll be a drive-in style event. So people will literally park their cars, be able to open up the hatches, kind of get out, sit in chairs. This will be 360 of lasers. Some of the questions I had about lasers and stuff was going to be how that was done. It is required and shall comply with the Center of Device and Radiology Health safety regulations to the state, federal, and local government, as well as the FAA because of using lasers into the air. I want to be very clear. This is not something that is shot into the crowd. This is a above aerial kind of show. They use fog and they use these light beams, but basically going to be shooting about 20 feet over all the people. So there's no direct impact to the residents or anything like that. So it is in conjunction with radiology and the use of these lasers. So it'll start at 8 o'clock and well, gates open at 5. It'll be 8 o'clock show. It's 1 hour. Then they take a half-hour reset. Another show goes on. So we're thinking it's going to bring a lot of people into town. There's no cost for the village to do this whatsoever. So the company comes in, they do the ticketing, they take in the funds. We do have some obligations as far as, porta potties and stuff like that, but there is a revenue sharing stream. So it's going to be basically a pass through as far as what comes into the village. So there's no cost that the village will incur whatsoever. They'll handle parking, ticketing, and actually facilitating the show as well. We'll have 2 means of egress coming off of McMillan and also on Osmond Field. So there'll be 2 ways in and 2 ways out. Any questions on that one as it stands? You just figured that one is probably the most dramatic or different for the area. So we just wanted to make sure we could kind of answer any questions you had. It seems to be getting a lot of response on the social media page. I think it should be a lot of fun, but we have that one. We have a ghost tour that's coming up through town. I think it's really exciting. A St. Patty's Day 5K that'll again be at Osmond Park. But we're trying to do a lot more events that we can utilize Osmond Park as a resource with doing a 5K, not shutting the streets down, not using police force and all that stuff to kind of shut the village down, as you will, like we do for the 4th of July. So, but that's really pretty much it. I'll continue to update on new events as they come and answer any questions you have.
Any questions for Jim or Mark?
Business development input?
it's just starting. So there's been some communication with some developments like that, but it's at this point, it's way too early to really comment on any of that stuff. So as soon as we know, we'll make sure we address the board. So
What one potential that Mark and Michael have been working on a regular basis downtown. So
yeah, there's a couple that are definitely in the mix, and hopefully we'll be presenting those next meeting on the 9th. So
okay. All right. Parks, Mary. Everybody brought their swim diapers to the pool today. I hope. It's open. Yeah. Oh yeah.
First of all, I want to thank Mayor and trustees for meeting with the Park Commission. I felt it was a very positive. I look forward to 3 new park board members and the making it a more productive progress for our park board and having some vision for them. Second, I want to clarify the tree at the Scout House was trimmed back 4th of July, the week before 4th of July, so the flag can fly at the Scout House. It is available. Sherry and I knew I don't have to really backtrack on Sherry. If I ask Sherry something, I know it will get done. So, but I did backtrack and she confirmed it was trimmed back for us. Next we have the Miss Antioch pageant is Saturday, August 5th. We have 2 women vying for Miss Antioch, 7 vying for Junior Miss Antioch, and 6 for Little Miss Antioch. It's at Antioch High School starting at 4 o'clock. If you'd like to attend, just let me know. August 5th. And as the summer is coming fast approaching an end, I want to give you an update. Most of our employees are high school and college kids. So it doesn't really affect our summer camp because we have enough and enrollment. We still keep in our ratio, but it does affect the pool. Like your athletes, they start sports back. College kids go back to school. The pool will stay open 7 days a week until August 13th. Dawn is really working on trying to get enough staff to keep it open that 15th, 16th, and 17th, because the grade schools are still off. But she's working hard to make sure that it can stay open. But if it does open, it might be like the slide will be closed just because she's short staffed. But then after that, starting August 19th, it is only open weekends until Labor Day. And lastly, the fall winter program guide will hit mailboxes the week of August 7th. And the programming for that in that brochure is from September 1 till March 31st. Any questions?
Nope. I had one comment though. I forgot to mention earlier in my mayor report, and kind of ties in. This weekend is the Lions Club Chicken Barbecue at Williams Park. So make sure people support that. And there's a deal with the pool, right?
If you buy a meal, the chicken meal, you get in the pool for free.
Okay. All right. Questions?
Can I
Katrina?
just
Yeah.
make one comment really quick about the park joint meeting?
Yeah,
we
sure.
had with them? I just wanted to make a suggestion, as far as, with the appointments. And I don't think that we discussed this, but I think that it would be a good idea if Jim Weber was involved, in the discussion as far as appointments. I think out of respect for him being, he's been on that board for a long time. I think he deserves to be part of that discussion too. So.
And I believe as of yesterday, there were 4 applicants.
Oh, yeah.
We plan to keep it open until, I think I asked Lori till next Friday. So,
Awesome.
all right. Thank you. Denny, Public Works.
Thank you. So I'll start out with our parks. The crews have been in mainly Centennial and Osmond over off the hillside, raising tree canopies and clearing some underbrush. So if you walk down the bike path, you'll notice quite a bit of work that has occurred, especially over by Osmond, along with some repairs at the playground on Centennial, which seem to happen quite a bit. It is a wooden structure. The wetlands walk, there was several repairs there made. And then There was a new pickleball painting done at Jensen. There was a request on some residents or visitors that showed high interest in it. So the crews have painted a pickleball court over at Jensen. They're also over at Osmond. You may notice there's a blue tarp over one of the amenities there. I think it's the Gaga pit, they call it. There are groundies in there. So we have tarped it. It's filled with sand and they burrow in. We've had problems at volleyball courts with them also. So someone asked, that's why we're basically trying to deter them from getting into the sand and moving on to a different location. You probably have noticed all the traffic paint that's going on. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, out here, the rain has delayed the dry time on this, so we had to leave the cones up. Normally it takes about 30 minutes. As of the end of the day, it still was not able to be driven in. So the county, we utilize the county on a lot of our roads, and my staff is also doing a lot of more of the infill work that the county cannot do. They basically will just do the white and yellow lines straight. They won't do the arrows. They won't do any of the verbiage. They won't do any of the hash marks. So you'll see kind of a combination of both of them. Actually, the county is pretty much done. They finished Tuesday. We repainted all the crosswalks on Main Street, including with one additional adjustment over here in the middle crosswalk. You may have noticed or not. On the east side, south of the crosswalk, there's a parking stall there. We eliminated that parking stall. It was brought to our attention that the visibility for traffic and for vehicle traffic and foot traffic was not enough. So the visibility is increased there for both foot traffic and vehicle traffic. Unfortunately, it took away a parking spot. I couldn't adjust it because there's a fire hydrant just down a little bit, and there's regulations on parking for a fire hydrant. So you'll see that. The treatment plant, we held hosted it a 4-hour training there through AWWA. That basically included our treatment plant staff and surrounding communities. So it was a nice little event that we got to host. We try to do it every year or every other year and share that. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to.
Questions? All right. Thank you, Denny. Any trustee reports? Any trustees on this side have anything they want to add?
Just wanted to add that, I know at the last joint meeting of the parks and the board, we had talked to or asked the attorney to come back with a report regarding residency, and I was wondering what the status of that report is.
Yeah, it's just about done. We did fall into one snag because of Illinois law. There was conflicting provisions with regards to one aspects of officers and whether board members can, for a non-home rule unit, whether board members are serve as officers pursuant to section 3.1-30-5 of the Illinois Municipal Code. We are not a home rule unit of government. There's literally two cases, one from 1975 and one from 1974, that directly conflict on one another. And so we're trying to work through that conflict. Obviously, we've got the law here, and I just want to make sure before we give a final report, we've worked through that conflict.
Thank you.
Any other trustee reports on the side? Trustee Pierce?
Two additional items I'd like to discuss. The first one is, I know we have very little control over the high school, and I really like their new sign. It's real well done. I like the graphics on it. But when I'm driving by it at night, it's like twice as bright as any. It's got very bright white LEDs, and it's very blinding. And I think we have an ordinance in town that controls LED signs and their lighting levels. And I mean, they're using daytime lighting level, and it's a bright white, and it's blinding and it's migraine inducing.
I'll work with their technology department. There's, as you know, maybe you don't, there have been previous issues with that sign already. So I think that I will continue to try to refine that.
I don't mind the sign. I really don't. It's just the brightness of it.
Okay. I'll talk to him.
Here.
It-
So you had two things, trustee Pierce. You had one more thing. yeah.
One more item. When I was coming in here today, I was coming up on Orchard here where they put that fence in. That whole side of the road is blind coming around that curve. So I don't know whether you need to adjust the traffic lane out a little bit.
You're talking not on the side of 83, you're talking on it.
I'm talking
Yeah, right.
Orchard,
Yeah,
right, right where they put the fencing up along Orchard.
Mhm.
If you
I-
come from Depot up to Main Street, you can't see around that curve at all.
Yeah, I did notice that a little myself too. So, okay. We'll talk to the bowler and the fencing and, I think maybe removing parts of the screen might make sense. All right. Any other trustee reports on this end? All right. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make
So
a motion.
moved.
Second.
Motion trustee Pierce, second trustee Peterson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, meeting adjourned at 7:23. We will reconvene for the committee of the whole meeting at 7:30 PM.
I'm the same as you.
All right. All right, call the meeting to order at 7:30. The committee of the whole meeting, roll call, please.
Berman,
Here.
Here.
McNeil,
Here.
Pierce,
Present.
Mason,
Here.
Peterson,
Here.
Mayor Garten.
Present. There's no mayoral report. I'm assuming no one signed up to address the board, Mary. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. We have, hi, Joe. I see you back. Okay. Next is the approval of the July 12th, 2023 committee of the whole meeting minutes as presented. Do I have a motion in a second?
So moved.
Motion trustee Bluthart,
Second.
second trustee Berman, roll call, please.
Berman,
Yes.
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
6 voting yes, motion carries. First item on the regular business is discussion regarding future plans for the historical building located at 817 Main Street. Mr. Garrigan?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Again, for the past year, we've been working with the Historical Society for the Schoolhouse Museum at 817 Main Street. As you know, that this building in many ways has been clearly, it has not been designated as a landmark, but clearly it really kind of helped identifies downtown Antioch. It's obviously a very historically sensitive building. As you will know, or maybe don't, the building itself is owned by District 34, the school district. We've been in discussions, staff has had numerous meetings with the Historical Society on the future of that building. So we thought perhaps it would make sense for the Historical Society to come before the board tonight and maybe identify some of the challenges with regards to this building, a little bit of the history of the building and some of the current predicament that they're in. We hope to have future discussions with the school district. They are clearly, obviously, the owner of the building as we speak, but I think there's all kinds of opportunities. Our long-term goal is maybe one day to see this building landmarked because it is so historically important. But I wanted to take this opportunity to at least introduce the Historical Society. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Margaret Cole. They've prepared a nice PowerPoint presentation, and Margaret's going to walk you through that presentation. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garrigan. Thank you, Mayor, Village Board members and staff for giving us the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I'm Margaret DeVries Cole and Secretary of the Lakes Region Historical Society. Other officers of the society here with us this evening are Betty Ann Ralston, our president, Kelly Noraki, our vice president, trustees Jan Burdick, Chandra Solberg, Bob Wonderling, Ainsley Brooke Wonderling, our museum director, our treasurer, Ted Solkowski was not, and Robin Kessel and Jan Crum were not able to be with us this evening. I understand that Mr. Garrigan provided you with copies of this before, so you could look at it. Okay, this school board owns the schoolhouse building at 817 Main Street. We were organized in 1973 in September, so our 50th anniversary is coming up. We were offered the old schoolhouse at 817 Main Street with a $1 per year lease with Antioch School District 34. We were given 10-year leases for the first 30 years, then leases went to 5 years, then 3 years, then the last two were only 2 years each. The terms were that we maintain the building. We completely renovated the interior with donated labor and materials in the 1980s, including plumbing, electrical, heating, and air conditioning. The bell tower was placed on the roof in June 1984. This is what people see when they're coming north through town. And the east, it says on top there what they are. Different views of the schoolhouse. You can see the various conditions that you don't see coming down the street. That's what you see as you're heading south through town. In the front faces Main Street. And that's the back corner that most people don't see. And the back side facing the Mary Kay McNeil School. Okay, current concerns. Over the years, we have done our best to maintain the building. In 2010 and 2011, we held a fundraising campaign to replace the roof. The roof was replaced in April 2012 at the cost of $19,100. In 2022, at the request of the school district, we had a service remove unnecessary materials from the basement at our cost of $1,850. In 2022, at the request of the school district, we contracted a company to do a mold remediation project in the basement at our cost of $2,400. Current concerns at this time, we are reluctant to do any major repairs due to the fact we were only getting a 2-year lease from the Antioch School District 34. Current lease ends in March 2024. 1 year ago, District 34 brought in a structural engineer to evaluate the status of the 131-year-old building. We have never been given a copy of this report and assume that there are no structural problems, as we have not been contacted about necessary repairs. Current state of the building. Exterior west-facing doors. Doors are deteriorating due to the facing west. The plastic on the doors has failed. They're no longer closed properly due to the deterioration of the materials. The inside. We currently have to use a chain and a padlock to secure the doors. The interior of the doors, at the transom there is a hole and a big crack in the window, which is hard to see due to the special window shade we have there. And then this is this one. I missed this one. Interior, okay. Exterior, the north facing doors. This one, exterior. When we took possession of the building 40 years ago, this area had an overhead garage door. At the time, the renovation committee chose to fill in this manner. Currently, the doors do not fit properly. The doors leak when rain comes from the north, and bottom and jambs are rotting. This is the inside of the main entrance doors. The door jamb is rotting, and the area above. There we go. Up. There we go. The bricks are falling out and the cedar shakes are warping. Next. A closer up view, bricks are failing. Some bricks have fallen out. The entire building needs to be cleaned and tuck pointed. Windows need replacing. Steps to the entrance door are sinking into the blacktop. The next view of them. Okay. The bell tower, that's the view several years ago when it deteriorated and we tried to raise money for it. And then the school district was doing some work on their own roof there, and they had their contractor repair that for us. They took the plywood off, and it's just a plywood with shingles on it. It's nothing real super duper. The bell tower was installed in 1984. Over the years, roof deteriorated. Okay, what needs to be done? All doors, jambs, thresholds need total replacement. All windows need to be replaced. The entire building needs to have bricks cleaned and tuck pointed. In addition, the west doors need repair. The addition at the west doors needs repair and painting. Non-brick areas on outside of building need repairing and painting. In January 2019, a heating line on the second floor burst during a cold spell. The pipes were being regularly checked during the cold weather. They had been inspected earlier on the day that the pipe broke at 9 p.m., around 9 p.m. We did not know that there was a problem until the water caused the cool ceiling in the first floor to fall, thereby setting off the alarm. Our museum director, Ainsley Wonderling, checked this situation and immediately called out our heating company and our plumber, who shut down the heat and water to that area to prevent further damage. The society took immediate action to prevent further damage to the property. It took 3 days to convince District 34 that they owned the building. At that time, their response was, we were specifically told by previous administration that we did not own this building and it was owned by the Historical Society. Antioch School District 34 did contact their insurance company and the needed repairs were made. The building is a landmark and a great asset to the village of Antioch. Not only was it constructed from bricks made by hand on the site of Antioch School District 34's W.C. Petty School, it educated Antioch's children for over 80 years and has continued to provide free educational opportunity for Antioch's residents to learn the history of their town and surrounding community. Next, the Lakes Region Historical Society would like the Village of Antioch Board to consider helping us to obtain a long-term lease of 15 to 20 years, or the Antioch School District 34 turning the building over to the Village of Antioch, which provide the society with a long-term lease. In the past, the village has told us that this school campus is made up of 7 parcels of land. We are only asking for help procuring an extended lease on the single parcel, which contains the 1892 school structure. We are ready to take on the job of restoring the facade of the building, but we do not want to do this without the benefit of a long-term lease. We feel that the needed repairs will cost in excess of $175,000. With a long-term lease or ownership, we would be able to roll out major fundraising campaign to raise money for the needed repairs. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to the board. There will not be a better time to preserve this lovely, highly visible historic structure, which will do nothing but enhance the new village park and the education of our residents for decades to come. Do you have any questions?
Yep, I'm sure they do. I will start on the right-hand side here. Trustee Berman.
I just have one quick question. As far as the lease, it was shortened over time. During at any time during that, was there ever a reason given as to why they wanted to shorten that?
No, not to my knowledge. Ainsley has been the one that has dealt mainly with them because she is our museum director.
Ainsley Wonderling.
Yeah,
We were told that they did not want to extend to a longer lease because the property was very valuable and they were considering all options about replacing the building, or at one time Metra had a program that they were selling the property and putting up high rises so that everybody could get on the train and go to the city. And so that they just kept shortening it and shortening it in case they wanted to dispose of it. Now, at that time, the law stated, because we had Bill Thompson, the county superintendent of schools, come to some of the meetings with us. And at that time, the law stipulated that because District 34 is a taxing body, that they would have to relinquish, either put the building out for bids to sell the property, or that it could be transferred to another taxing body. But as we understand now, that law has changed. So that does not have to take place anymore.
Okay. Question? Trust, is that done? Good?
Yeah.
Trustee Blue?
No question, just a comment. I mean, obviously, we want to keep that building as long as we can. So I just would like to see the village do whatever we can to help them. And if that means taking ownership of that building, that's something we need to look into. But I think we need to move forward and get this ball rolling on getting some resolution on it. That's all.
Trustee McNeil.
So currently my question would be,
have you been to the District 34 board meeting, or what's like the most recent statement that they provided about a lease? I guess I'm just a little confused.
It
with-
was in the fall of 2019, we did a presentation concerning the bell tower
Okay,
to them and asking for clarification, and their board at the time was clueless.
okay,
At that time, we had brought the Lincoln Funeral Car to town specifically
Remember
as a
that.
fundraiser for the bell tower. When they repaired the bell tower on their own, we have used some of those funds to do some other things, but we still have some of them set aside so that we can start, like, for example, the doors are really in a terrible shape that they have to be chained shut on the Main Street side. So, and the woodwork is cracking and we'd really like to repair those, but that's an investment that we don't want to, our funds, we don't have great funds. Everybody does remember the Dolly money, but we have to add in, if that comes up, that we did purchase the 3 structures on the south end of town, the Meeting House, Massage on Main, and the Penny's Purpose, 965, 977, and 983 Main Street. And we completely restored the Meeting House back to its appearance when it was built in 1863. So a lot of those funds were used there, and then we have those properties to maintain as well.
I'm a huge,
go ahead.
oh, no, that's
No, no.
okay, I'm sorry.
No.
Just gonna say, I'm a huge advocate. I've been to your museum and I love it. I'm just wondering, like, if it should be brought before District 34's board again, like, if, have they
Oh,
given a
absolutely,
final
but we
answer?
didn't want to go before them and get told the same thing about how, well, the property, we don't want to tie up the property. If we want to sell the property, that corner is very valuable. And, when we had the leak and I came to Jim because I was having trouble convincing the administration that they did own the building. And Jim looked it up, and there are the 7 parcels. So there would be one parcel. They included a lot of homes that were taken down when they built the playground and up to the north where the ball field is or whatnot. So so it's just one little corner, which would enhance the park,
Sure.
enhance the view driving north through town.
And District 34 has no problem bringing their second graders over to go through the building.
So I have a question, 2-part question. And Michael, and you guys may know this as well. If this is designated a historic building, does this make that unmarketable, unsellable, and limit what could happen to the building?
No, I mean, obviously this building could be designated as a landmark tomorrow. If the school district had such a desire, they would probably just have to go through the process. They would have to file an application with the Historic Preservation Commission. HBC would make a recommendation to the village board for landmarking. No, it does not in any way basically inhibit the property being conveyed to a third party or marketable. It could be used for future commercial development. There's all kinds of opportunities.
Okay.
It just means it's protected. The building itself is
Okay.
protected, but it wouldn't prohibit. It'd have no impact on the.
And that would be my
use.
second question, is that the petitioner has to be the owner. It can't be a third party. Okay.
Yes, our ordinance, the petitioner has to be the owner.
All right, Trustee Pierce.
Yeah, I've seen a lot go on over in that corner over the years, but it's always been a cornerstone of my drive through town. When I come home and I'm coming up Main Street, you can see the school and the church right here. It's kind of like your home.
Bookends.
They're bookends, but you're home when you see those. But over the years, we've seen a lot of different plans come forward. You're right. There's been plans to completely renovate from the train station parking lot all the way over to Main Street, taking the Mary Kay McNeil Learning Center and turning that into some sort of commercial or commercial/residential development, which I've seen done in other towns, and they take the schools and they gut them out, and then they turn them into some sort of residential facility inside, and they can be very beautiful. The problem I have here is, number one, I think it's kind of rough for us to be talking about District 34 without District 34. So I think we need to have the village, the historical group, and the District 34 sit down and talk and decide what they're going to do. Me personally, I'd be open to condemning the property and taking it over if we could, but I don't think a village can do that to a school district. there's a lot of good reasons for us to invest money in that building to keep one of the main characters of Antioch in place.
Right.
So I think the next step is District 34 and the village and you all talk.
We have had brief informal meetings here in the boardroom with representatives from District 34. And they have come to the building and we have talked with them. And we're making a formal presentation to the village and the village board to help us work with District 34.
And I think we should. And on top of that, if we contribute to repairs of that building, I don't think that's a facade program item. That's a special funding by the village. And I don't think it should be part of the facade grant program. I think we would have to look at some sort of special funding somehow.
The Historical Society with the Schoolhouse Museum is a great asset to the village, as long with all of our archives in the 977 building.
Trustee Masek.
Oh. I think it's important to memorialize Antioch. Your book helped it do a big part with the buildings. You forgot about the rescue squad. You got one of the best paramedics over there, Joey Badami. Stand up, take a bow. Joey Badami. Oh, he is standing. Sorry. But I think it's important. Here's the problem with fundraising. I think people don't understand what the museum's about. They got to be more informed. And I think people should be willing to donate. I think that's a great cause to memorialize what people put in. Because what happens is you've got a lot of great people that have gone through fire department, police department, rescue squad, and it becomes an illusion. And you've got people that volunteer for committees, becomes an illusion. You get people that have done stuff in Antioch, becomes an illusion. You have pictures that bring stuff back. You've got memories. You got past mayors. You've got past people that serve. And I can, people that had storefronts. It just you're not talking. I know you want to talk, but you've got such an opportunity to memorialize the past instead of me sitting there questioning her if she remembers stuff, which she always doesn't forget. But
When when the windows were first put in, they were put in by a member of the rescue squad's family, and they were by Marv Heath's company, and they were funded by your family would pay for one window and my family would pay for another window, and then there's a plaque on each of the windows. So
my family spells it right. Not after the gas station.
there is, yes, the Masick family that lived here forever was spelled differently with an S.
Trustee Peterson, did you have anything on this item?
I do. I too would love to see that school in your hands. And I would truly love to see the village sit down with the school district. If the village could reach out to the school district, just start the communication going, start the talking,
I'm sure they know that we were coming, Paul. They don't know, okay, but we have talked to them in the past. We've talked to them about coming to the village, and there have been some between COVID and changing the hierarchy over there, and so there was always one thing or another, or the fiasco over the books in the school, and so they've always said that's down on the list. So
well, what I'm hearing tonight from this board is that everyone is on board and wants the museum to
Standing with
stay
us.
there. Yes. So yes, the property is very, very valuable, but it's valuable to us right there doing exactly what it's doing, not becoming condominiums and not becoming a pathway to the train station.
And the Historical Society has never charged admission, and we've all offered all the schools to come, and the only schools that have ever taken us up are Antioch schools for second grade and Grass Lake for sixth grade, but now that teacher's retired. But
That's wonderful.
yeah, and we've given historical walks to the kids from Grass Lake School.
Right.
We offer
So
some of these things.
what I'm saying is possibly if the school district realizes that the village really wants to do this as well, then possibly more communication can happen.
Absolutely. We're ready. We're ready.
Okay, and I'm all for that. That's all I have, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Chip?
We've had those preliminary discussions, but I've never been able to state that I have the backing of the board. So if this board chooses, they could direct me to make a formal request to either work with the Historical Society on a longer term lease or for village acquisition. So you could tell me to
I
approach it in a little more aggressive manner.
I would, as a board member, agree to tell you if we could vote to begin negotiations for acquiring the property. I think that's the long-term solution. And we may have to, bargain with them on their uses on the rest of the lots and stuff. Use that as leverage.
I would think too, just a suggestion, if you got someone that may have a little clout in it with the last name, to have her in the room.
I'm glad to.
Oh,
help,
I
but
think,
don't-
we did have, like I said, I do remember one preliminary meeting, prior administration. I know Mr. Green was there at that meeting and, the business manager for the school district. And we'll make sure to get Aaron, the business manager, the school board president and village and historical society in a room and, move this forward because, that was probably 2 years ago that we had that last meeting.
It's been a while,
Okay.
but yeah, I think it's time that we, as trustee Bluefield said, move forward.
I don't want to use the word aggressive. I want to say that we will have regular communication and meetings with them to try and find a resolution on it. So,
Sounds great.
all right, thank you. Thank you. All right, next
The
item.
Schoolhouse Museum is open on Saturdays from 11 to 3.
All right.
By appointment.
All right. Next items, last item on the cow is discussion regarding property maintenance code. Director Garrigan.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to introduce the board with respect to our timing of our new code enforcement, full-time code enforcement official. We thought there was a perfect opportunity to basically look at some of our tools. As you know, last year we passed a rental ordinance. And we think there's an opportunity to maybe also look at some of the other codes. Specifically, what I'm bringing before the board tonight, just for a very brief introduction, is the property maintenance code. It's something that's really not really referred to a lot. We also refer to the building code. Well, the property maintenance code is really part of the International Building Code. It's part and parcel of our building code. The good news is that was adopted when last time we adopted our building code changes. And looking through that ordinance, it gives a village a fair amount of latitude on when there are really major property maintenance issues on some of our properties. And what we're proposing tonight is just based on some reviews of other communities is to maybe make some slight refinements and changes to it just to make it a little more clear. So as we step up more and more code enforcement as it relates to property maintenance, there'll be more clarification to this ordinance. I think that's a wonderful tool that we can continue to use. Again, for a clarification, property maintenance code covers a lot of things. In a very positive way. You saw some of the issues with the historic schoolhouse, missing bricks, just disintegrating doors, things like that. Property maintenance code does, all handle that, can address that, protect the village, protect surrounding property values. What it does not do is it doesn't regulate things like colors. So if you see a building that has a certain color that nobody's happy with, that property maintenance code doesn't regulate that. Unfortunately, it doesn't prohibit somebody from painting aliens on their building. There are certain things that it does prohibit, doesn't really force a building owner to invest in, taking a 1970s mansard roof, something that's dated, it's clearly dated, that require them to renovate the building to make it more contemporary or more consistent with today's trends. We can't require an owner to do that under the property maintenance code, but we can address property maintenance if it's a public safety endangerment. Obviously, think everything from weeds, we already regulate weeds. But if there's extensive deterioration in exterior, even it addresses the interior. So if the property is not habitable or if a building's not habitable, property maintenance code can be used. And that we have general powers that really do everything from, from, again, with due process to actually condemn the property, to basically board up the property. The actual ordinance itself gives the village a fair amount of latitude, again, with proper due process and due notice. And that's all outlined in the property maintenance code. So I wanted to do a very brief introduction and make sure the board is generally comfortable. There is a long process. We have to work with the state, Illinois state. If we are going to modify any ordinances as relates to the building code, we had to go through the state first and give them due notice. And then we would bring a formal text amendment somewhere down the road. So I wanted to start discussion. So if there is support for this, it's something we could theoretically get approved sometime this autumn. So with that, I'll conclude my staff report.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions, the board? Yep.
Just a
trustee
quick
Brewer.
comment. This is pretty much, everybody seems to be adopting the international code. And I believe, I think Dennis can probably confirm this, but I think plumbing already requires this international code.
Correct.
For the state anyways.
Correct.
So
We adopted the plumbing code, obviously. So there's a plumbing code, there's the energy code. There's 5 or 6 or 7 codes that we adopted, part and parcel the last time we amended our ordinance, I'm sorry, the building code. We are now under 2012 International Building Code. We did, I think we made that change. I lost track maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And at that point, we adopted the current plumbing code, electrical codes, energy codes, and the property maintenance code. So what this proposal is just to maybe just clarify some areas of the property maintenance code as we do more and more code enforcement and try to work with property owners. We just want to make sure there's clarification. There's no ambiguity.
oh, yeah,
All
thank
right,
you.
thank you. Trustee Bluthart.
Yeah, my only comment is I want to make sure as we're going through this code that we're adding as much teeth to this as possible regarding enforcement. So if it needs to be beefed up or whatever you need to do, and also make sure we look at the current fine and violation structure so that we can, once again, add some teeth to it. So it's not someone it's easier to write a $50 check than it is to fix the problem.
There is actually a new fee schedule here, which does step up the fines a little bit. So we can review that when we actually review, if there is support for that, when we come in for a formal text amendment, we can actually spend a little time on that proposed fine schedule.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
No questions.
Trustee McNeil. All right, thank you. Trustee Pierce.
I think it's a good idea to have code enforcement. I think it's a good idea for us to keep ours current and have people out there inspecting businesses and residences, especially rental residences, because those tend to be the ones who may have the most safety issues for their renters. I do get concerned if we become too egregious and too aggressive that we turn into something we don't want to be.
Right.
So I think that we need to, as we approach this, find balance to properly enforce things, but not become rude about it.
No, I completely concur. I think historically that's been our culture. And I think that's staff's intent is try to work with property owners. I think you get a lot further trying to work with property owners in a civil manner to the best of our abilities and trying to find out what can be done. Sometimes it's challenging when property owners don't have the financial wherewithal. It's sometimes challenging to force them to make those improvements that we expect. So it's something we'll have to work through. But no, the intent of this is to try to work with property owners and not just necessarily, bring an onerous process down on them.
Right. But I understand we need a hammer. But I just want to make sure we maintain balance.
Thank you. Trustee Masek.
Yeah. 308-2, that's the disposal rubbish? That's in effect right now,
It is in effect. And I mean, we have a perfect example, of that, and sometimes it's challenging to get that enforced because sometimes you have renters and we have a perfect example right now. And we've forwarded the council. So that's a perfect example. We do currently regulate that. We prohibit rubbish. This is basically just making it a little stronger, but that's one of those examples.
Chad, sometime.
Yes, I know exactly what, and it's actually been referred to our attorney, and it's something that seems so straightforward. In many cases, very complicated because the owner does not live there. as renters and it's,
And the only reason I've sent other animals to other houses that are living in the rubbish. And the other
Absolutely.
one, I didn't really read through it, is cars without license plates or expired license plates and driveways, or I know they can't park in yards yet. I had someone say there's one in the yard, which I'll talk to you off the dais, and but if they've had an expired plate for 5 years and it's sitting out there, we should have that in the ordinance.
we should be, yeah, well, I think we actually, I'll make sure it does. I think that's actually addressed in our ordinance right now, but I'll make sure it's actually addressed in a property maintenance code. If it's not properly licensed, I do think we have legal recourse. If it's obviously proper, being parked on unimproved surfaces, i.e. grass, we have legal recourse, but this makes it even more, there's a lot more
There's
juris.
one that I talked again off the dais, but it's been there 5 years unlicensed,
Okay,
and I think it's an abandoned car,
it may be.
because nobody owns that.
I mean, we have a property, I won't mention who it is, but we've issued, I can tell you right now, it's going on $7,000 in citations. And still we've only had limited success in addressing it.
And that becomes a lien situation. You can get all the fines you want, but they won't pay or can't pay
Until they sell the property.
until the house is sold or the property sold.
So sometimes code enforcement is not black and white. It's sometimes very challenging and it just, that's unfortunately the circumstances we're in.
Trustee Peterson?
I have a question. Weeds, vegetation, rodent infestation, parking motor vehicles, garbage, just out and out garbage laying around. Does this have enough teeth in it to stop that from happening?
Again,
Clean up a
just-
property?
yeah, I mean, I think that with a new schedule, with a new, basically a new schedule for fines, the first fine, second fine, third, fourth, I think that gives us a little more latitude in trying to make to have some type of positive impact in regards to the administrative enforcement. What avenue we have after all the administrative approaches have been exhausted, then it's something we would probably refer to the village attorney to see what, if there's any form of injunctive relief, that would be the next step. But I think that this really goes beyond what we have right now as it relates to trying to enforce some of those issues. And we, as you know, I think we all know what property we're talking about with the rubbish and garbage.
And safety for the neighbors
And
that live
property
around there.
Right.
It's a public hazard, actually, with rodents.
So seems like there is support to move forward. If I don't hear any objection, we'll keep moving along.
Right.
All right, thank you for your report. What's next? Any requests for executive session? Which category?
No action, potential litigation.
Probable or imminent litigation is a proper reason to go into closed session under section C11 of the applicable statute.
All right, so I have a request from trustee Masek for executive session regarding potential or pending litigation with no
I'd
further.
like to add property acquisition also.
Okay, request for property acquisition, both with no further action to take place after executive session. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Motion trustee Peterson, second trustee Berman. Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, 6 voting yes. We're going into executive session at 8:08. No further business to take place after executive session.